We are titling the conference, How to Build a 21st Century Brand. As it turns out, that is not an empty title or theme. It has real meaning. We are constructing the entire IAB annual leadership meeting for 2018 around the largest piece of research IAB has ever undertaken. And the research proves that the center of gravity in the consumer economy in the United States is shifting from what we call the indirect brands that have dominated for most of the past 130 years to a set of thousands, literally thousands of what we're calling direct brands. And these direct brands are characterized by two things that intersect. One is that they create value not through high barrier to entry, capital intensive, owned and operated supply chains, but they create value through low barrier, capital flexible, leased or rented supply chains. And the second intersecting fact is they extract value not through this very cumbersome indirect process of working through multiple third parties, advertising agencies, publishers, and retailers, but they extract value increasingly through the direct relationship between the company and the consumer. And what we're showing in enormous detail is not only can companies and consumers now be connected to each other, we all know that, that's a commonplace, but they must be directly connected to each other. And not for the reasons people kind of typically, the soft reasons people typically assume. Oh, if somebody tweets negatively about me, I have to be able to correct the record. There's nothing soft about it at all. It's that the direct connection between a brand and a consumer throws off a lot of first-party data. And at a modest degree of scale, that first-party data fuels every other function of the enterprise. Product development, service development, customer value analysis, pricing mechanics. And so these are the things that modern companies need to compete. What we're in effect doing here is putting flesh and muscle on the bones of a frequently repeated but ill-understood cliche, which is that data is to the 21st century what capital was to the 20th century. We're showing that thousands and thousands of startup consumer companies are taking advantage of that and taking that taking growth away, again, one fraction of a share point at a time from the big incumbents. And a final thing that I want to mention is that the big incumbents are not laying back. You have some giant incumbent companies that have understood this for years and have been transitioning. Nike is a perfect example. You know, a company that's been that is projecting a 2.5x increase in its direct-to-consumer revenues just in the next 3 years, after massive increases that have already taken place. You have other giant incumbents like Unilever that are focusing half their strategy on this phenomenon and are experiencing outsized growth rates because of their investments. And then you have some who have lagged and have conceded that they lag, like Procter & Gamble, which are also orienting so much of their strategy in this direction. So the argument we're making is that, as I said, the center of gravity is changing. If you've premised your business on just the top 200 incumbents, and you're still focused on working with advertising agencies to put impressions in front of people in the hopes that it will drive them to a third-party retail store, that is not what brands are looking for anymore. They're looking for more direct relationships that create not just sales, but create data that fuels the company before, during, and after the sale.
And so what are some opportunities for the publishers to meet this opportunity?
Well, there are lots. I mean, among others, you've got to step outside the impressions-based economy and work to create those direct relationships. So clearly, publishers always have and will continue to play a role in helping all brands acquire new customers, right? Acquisition is still as important as it used to be. It's just happening in many different ways than it used to happen before. But another opportunity and another need is because these brands have, even after they have that direct relationship with the consumer, it's almost by definition a one-dimensional relationship. A Madison Reed, the hair coloring company, will know its consumers intimately, but it will know them primarily as consumers of hair color. A well-run publisher will have a 360-degree view of the consumer, and so can help these direct brands not just acquire but maintain and grow their business through increased customer intimacy. Another advantage that publishers have is that you'll see in the direct brand world, almost paradoxically, an enormous emphasis on storytelling. And I say that's almost paradoxical because you would expect that if these companies, and let's be clear, we're talking about companies like a Warby Parker, or a Glossier in cosmetics, or a Hubble in contact lenses, or an Away Travel in luggage, or I mentioned a Madison Reed in hair coloring. You would expect that if this is the second coming of direct response marketing, the only thing that they would need is blasted out programmatic advertising. Just get, billions of impressions out there, make them more and more efficient, target them better, that's all you need. So why are they so reliant on content marketing? Well, one answer is that because these companies are drawing promiscuously from the same set of available supply chain resources, they're as subject to, and potentially more subject to, commoditization perceptions as offline companies. So that makes it very difficult for them to differentiate on the basis of price or function. They need to differentiate on the basis of lifestyle, psychographics, and demographics. So that makes them really interested and really reliant on content marketing. But that's good news for publishers. But they also define content in many different ways than a traditional publisher would, or advertising agency. We've tended to define content marketing as storytelling in a 30-second spot, or a product placement, a brand placement. But I remember when I was interviewing Amy Errett, who's the founder of Madison Reed, the hair color company, and I asked about the content marketing and role. Her quote was just really telling. She said to me, I said, "We're all about content marketing. In fact, all of our customer care people are licensed cosmeticians." So you can see that the notion of content takes on a multidimensionality that doesn't typically exist in the publishing organization.